Well, ladies and gentlemen of the Jesters Court, it has happened one more time. The quarterfinals and semifinals of the high school Jesters' 13th year of league existence has come and passed. Both rounds, that's right. In one day, we saw 6 improv games that took all 8 remaining teams to the next level in order to find out who would go to the championship round. And it was a bittersweet experience, speaking from a macro view, because so many incredible teams went home, but 2 remain. Who are they? You guys know, and yeah, I do too. I won't fake it. I know everything. Woohoo! Let's bring in King Kopy, and we're going to talk about our quarterfinal and semifinal rounds. Kopy!
Yo.
His Royal Highness, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for the weekend that was. It's been a special experience over the last 36 hours now, kids, since the quarter and semifinals wrapped up, that I've been able to digest what happened. And we're going to talk it all and break it all down step by step for you guys, and talk a little bit about the matchup that is to be in our final, which is set, friends. So if somehow you love high school Jesters and you've somehow avoided knowing what happened over the weekend up until this point, then hey, don't switch over to the website now. We're going to give it all to you. And Kopy, you got to admit, right? All 8 teams came hungry, motivated. It was so much fun to have this type of playoff improv, this kind of feel permeate Desert Oasis High School. Thank you, Desert Oasis, for hosting, of course. Everything was in high intensity mode. These kids were looking to win. How do you feel we all rose to the occasion this past weekend?
You know, it's funny when I talk to people about just these recaps, like old Jesters and like judges, and just say, hey, like, yeah, me and Warren do this like sports style ESPN sports recap kind of thing. And it's not because we're necessarily trying to tell people like who won, who lost, so people are learning for the first time. It's just more so to just sit in it and let these moments that just go so quickly just live a little bit longer, and talk about just how cool it is. And that's kind of what this whole day was just a lot of coolness, a lot of exactly what you said. We took something that might seem so silly in passing, and we've turned it into something that motivates people and makes them excited and gives them a drive. And that's what this day is. This day shows the drive that you want to be there. And when I'm sitting up there in that Final Four, and I said it in both shows, I just said, these are the 2 teams that are representing the East. These are the 2 teams that are representing the West. And you could say, hypothetically, these are the best 2 teams that came out of both sides. And you just get, it's because of that drive, just them wanting that.
Yeah.
And yeah, this was really cool. This was really, really cool to see. Super happy with the judges I had on this particular round.
Yes.
I think 4 very unique brains that helped in this, and I think it was cut the way I wanted to be cut. Spiro and Reno unfortunately had to do all 6, so I know that was a lot on them, but I trust them wholeheartedly with how they can observe and see things. Even Reno, who doesn't have a whole lot of improv in her life anymore, she admits it. The way she has always digested improv has always been this very extreme, detail-oriented, just process.
Right.
And some of the work that I've seen her do is phenomenal. Amber had that too. Amber was your Spitfire back in her day as a performer.
Oh yeah.
She like reminds me a lot of Althea from Cimarron.
Perfect.
So
yeah,
she loved doing that and being there. And she judged the first 4. So after the day was over, she was one of my phone calls and said, "What happened after I left?" So that's just awesome. Cool. Yeah, just a cool weekend we had here.
Yeah, it was special. And, you know, I guess to piggyback on what you said about these recaps, if anything, I think what you and I have learned over the years is that, especially for those kids who get these conversations at championship day where awards are discussed and good feelings are discussed, for the kids who love this stuff and digest it and live for those moments, right? This is kind of our place to take it and make it a conversational sort of highlight where we can just sit and reflect and go, whoa, like that happened. It was really fun. And you kids deserve to know we noticed. And now you don't have to wait all the way up to the end of the season to hear that we noticed. And there was so much to take notice of this week. A lot of bittersweet moments. Of course, the judging agreed. Wonderful collection of past Jesters minds to come in. Always love seeing Spiro Savelis, now a great stand-up comedian. Guys, go ahead and graduate and go look him up. Not suitable for work, but fun. Watching him do comedy. He's been doing improv as long as I've known him, which is long enough, but very, very good. And Big was there. Big is our former coach of Mojave High School's team, who will return one day. And Big has been doing improv and performance all across Las Vegas in so many different ways. I know him as a karaoke jockey, but he does so much more than that. Right. And he's really larger than life. So thank you, everybody who came out to judge. And now I suppose let's dissect your work as we get into what actually happened. And I agree, Abby, this is a good time for us to start, and we have dragged in our introduction long enough. So without further ado, okay, Bo, calm down. We've got stuff to do, okay? Don't talk back to me. I don't appreciate that status, all right? We'll feed you in a little while. Just let us talk about improv, okay? 8 a.m. hit, and we had the Dragons once again at 8 a.m. Del Sol takes the stage to once again remind us what it's like to play 8 a.m. improv when you're a fire-breathing lizard. But across from them was who I know our team at Del Sol was thrilled to have across from them at this stage in the tournament, and that is Las Vegas Academy. Two of the well-known performance academies in town finally getting to see which a performance academy gets to have bragging rights this year. It's been a long time. I don't even know if Del Sol and LVA really matched up in the playoffs at any point in the past, since they've kind of burgeoned LVA as a Eastern power. So this was really exciting for us. And, I don't know if I should be the one to jump right in, but I will tell you as their coach, my kids came out and played the best potential show they could have possibly played. We were glued into one another. Our chemistry was clicking. Our flow was really impressive. We were consciously making sure no one could perceive us as uncomfortable or nervous. And I'll tell you what, at least half my team is incredibly capable of looking uncomfortable or nervous almost by default. So we knew we needed to work hard to make sure y'all in the audience knew that we were ready for this moment. And to my Del Sol Dragons, before we talk more on it, I want to say I cannot be more proud of that performance. We played a weekend at Bernie's that the kids had to convince me to let them play. I've been given a lot of freedom to my students because I've been trying to turn from being a coach of students to a coach of coaches. So, of course, my leadership team was like, hey, coach, we don't want to play this game. We really want weekend at Bernie's. And here's why. I told them, hey, guys, we'll do it as long as you do a few key things to make this game more entertaining, at least in my eyes. And then after my 4 or 5 notes, God bless them, they went out there, and I'll say especially Max, homeboy, that game had you all over it. Those kids listened to my notes, played one of the most entertaining versions of the game I could imagine, and I was sincerely grateful to see that come out of us. And the rest of the games were a lot of fun too. LVA across from us, of course, brought in Elliot, who, my captain Speedy was super excited to have the opportunity to play with Elliot at this stage of the year. And a number of other major representatives we've seen over the year. It was nice to finally meet Lenore, a very capable improviser there. Paige, our Rookie of the Year nominee, very impressive. And most improved nominee, Bram, I finally got to meet you. You remind me a lot of a mini Bella, so right. The rest of the league should watch out as that Bram matures, no doubt. Great matchup. Had a pleasure playing. Any words you want to throw out there? Because I know I've rambled enough.
Yeah, I was ready. I was ready to see this particular matchup. LVA has just continued to impress me as the year went on, and I was happy with the choice of Leora being in the show for LVA, because LVA did the first handful of weeks with the same pairings. And then they finally started rotating, and we got to see Leora towards the end of the year. And when Leora had that first show, and I was like, oh, Leora can go. Like, Leora can play. I remember saying to Trent, what are you doing hiding all these secrets to your team here? So for me, it was cool to see Leora in this matchup because I know Bram and Paige and Elliot are just riding a high from getting these award nominations and how strong they've been. And Elliot, of course, it's been a league favorite for a long time. So,
and Leora, pardon me for misnaming you. Certainly not personal. I'm still not going to
it may have been a formal name. Lenore, is that what you said? Maybe
so I'm still okay.
Maybe. I don't know.
Well, I'll move on with my life.
Bram's real name is Kapua, but it goes by Bram.
Yeah.
So from a game standpoint, Ice Cream Truck and Bathroom on Monkey Mirror, I definitely enjoyed. And I think from this, on my side of this, from the start, because we opened with that Monkey Mirror, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Speedy to me is who jumped out at that Ice Cream Truck scene, or in the Ice Cream Truck scene. Yep. And Speedy, I gotta give it to you. For me, this was maybe the best show I think I ever seen you do. Like, you started right out of the gate. You started there with your quips. You carried it over into Bernie's, your references and replay, and then even jumping out and what are you doing with Elliot? Out of the gate.
That What Are You Doing was one of my favorite games all year. No matchup was lame there. That was so good.
And that's what I was excited about, because when I walked out there, I wasn't exactly sure who I was going to start with. So when Speedy and Elliot were like, us, and we were like, okay. So now my brain was going, okay, what can I do next? And that's when I had Ghost and Paige, and then I went Max, Leora, and then I felt like I had to end it with Bella and Bram. So I think for me, I don't know if I would have organized those pairings any differently. Even giving Bella and Bram dog, like the 3-letter part, that may have been the first time all year I've done that.
Yep. It felt great watching you do that. I knew that meant you trusted us to have a good round even still, and off they went.
Yep. So yeah, all the way above here, I don't think I've seen LVA go for forward reverse yet, so that was cool to see them try some there. Bernie's, I think we've only seen once or twice this year too. And heck, replay may have been my favorite of the game. Just the weird kindergarten-y NFL weight room, whatever that initial scene was.
Right.
And then 90s sitcom and the way that Roman broke that down. So on the side, this is just a fun.
The Silverado replay?
No, that was this one.
Okay. All right.
So you guys might not know this, but for cues for music, when songs over there working on music, we have a whole replay playlist, and I've been working on it all year to make sure that there's music for any type of idea or suggestion that we could get from an audience. So I've got a lot of stuff, and Roman still finds ways to pick suggestions that I don't have music for. So it's like, Jesus, Roman, how do you do this to me? So 90s sitcom, I thought was a great suggestion because they killed it. That was great.
Oh, yeah. And the way that, Bram kind of called out the canned laughter for that was flawless.
Right.
And what I liked about the replay is that each one had a very distinctive texture. And while all the beats were there, they went really far out of their way to help each individual replay feel different.
Right.
And, it's not only the name of the game, it's just executed to the point where, I was just real proud of that game coming out of it. Right. And the show as a whole, very, 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 very close. Sitting next to Trent, feeling it go back and forth. I mean, this always was going to be super exciting to play another performance school, especially the performance school in our minds. Like, trust me, Del Sol couldn't wait to see how they matched up this week. So,
well, So Judge Amber asked me at one point before that show, she says, so, because LVA wasn't around when Amber was a jester.
No.
So she says, how is it with LVA being like the performing school and whatnot? And I said, it's weird because a lot of times the LVA improvers are, yeah, maybe they're theater majors, but then you also get the Japanese major and you get the weird, like, you just get all these random artsy kids that aren't a part of theater that just find their way to us. And that's kind of the way LVA has always been. So yeah, and that's what I've been saying about LVA all year. So they're just this weird mix that somehow found a way to gel. So I'm happy they made it to this Elite Eight. Of course, we now know Del Sol won. But talk about a way to start the day.
And it's so funny. I feel like our Del Sol kids, the 4 who eventually got to represent here in these playoffs to this point, are very different too. So it was going to be about which team's chemistry, solidified their standing. I was so proud of Del Sol because while ours hadn't had the opportunity to gel all throughout the year, per se, because we're sharing so much sugar and getting some different faces up there with different mixes, I was really impressed with the way our 4 kids gelled this past week that quickly. We had samples of it last week and I saw it in practices. I was like, you kids are ready for this week, and I felt it, but they came out readier than I expected. And I have to say, thank you, Speedy and Ghost, both my presidents. It's not very often you see students fight for what they want in these high pressure situations. And I'm very easily swayed because I'll do whatever my kids want for the most part. But I still wasn't going to let that game go out unless it went out the way it did. And Weekend of Bernie's was such a 180 from what I expected to see in playoffs that I have to thank you, kids. We wouldn't have advanced without you, I bet. I really do. So when I say that, I just mean your decision to stand up and say, this is what we want. Can we do it? Tell us how. And that's what they did, and that's what we did. So kudos, an amazing moment for me. Second year in a row at that point, getting to Final Four as a coach. So all smiles, but still lots of sweat until we get to the end of this first bracket. So we'll advance into the 9 a.m. show where Basic and Silverado matched up. And this was 2 very different Basic and Silverado ensembles than what we saw the week prior, knowing all too well that some major pieces of both teams weren't going to be there in Evan Hardy of Basic and Nathan Olson?
Yep.
Good, of Silverado. Arguably 2 of the hearts of their teams, if I could be honest. So this was going to look very different, and the students who took to the stage gave their absolute greatest energy. I finally got my eyes on our Rookie of the Year nominee from Basic after all this time.
From Silverado.
But most improved from Basic is what I meant to say. And our Rookie of the Year, Jillian from Silverado. Jillian's got a great methodical approach to how she shares her improv. Great brain. So sad that's another one and done, right? Great matchup between these 2 teams of schools. I loved seeing Aaliyah one last time as she rocked it in this playoff matchup. Gosh, Aaliyah, I texted Kopy from my seat and said, Kopy, we Aaliyah definitely improved so much this year. You really did, kid. If you're watching these, I hope you know how absolute how much respect we have for you. Just awesome work this year for that school. And the 3 of you Basic kids who were standing by Evan all year, being so encouraging of him, but now standing on stage ready to take on Silverado. Anything could have happened. And Silverado brought with them Jillian and Jason and Miguel and my brain farted. Why does Parker? Oh, that guy, the 4-year. That guy with all of the smooth jokes. And Parker, your poise is incredible. Reminds me a little bit of the other members of the Silverado 4 who you've come up all the way with. You're so good at waiting patiently for your chance to strike. And when you strike, you do it so smoothly. And without, you almost wonder, do you even realize how funny you are? Because of how naturally you slide your jokes out. But major kudos to Jason as well, who remind me of Jillian. I mean, the 2 of them have very same kind of approaches as far as their cadence is concerned. So they made a great stake, as I like to call it, for the team. I divide us into stake for like substance players and sizzle for like the live wires. And I thought you two provided a lot of stake to what Silverado could do. Close games. I mean, it's a blur for me, having been as stressed as I am. You know, my breakdowns will struggle 36 hours later when all I remember is the outcome. But Kopy, break down which game stood out to you in this matchup.
Yeah, some cool little things about it. We knew going in that no Evan, no Nathan, which is kind of like your, what is it, King Kong versus Godzilla moment that you wish you could have had. But nonetheless, with what we did have, it was funny backstage. Taz from Basic comes up to me with the biggest smile on his face, and he goes, "I'm Evan now." Like, okay,
great
Taz.
Choice.
All right,
That's
Taz.
great.
Got it. And then on the Silverado side, so I remember for weeks I've been asking Coach Isaac and Enrique about Jason, because we only got Jason in one show all season.
Wow.
And I kept saying, "Hey, where's that Jason kid? Like, come on, give us Jason."
Mm-hmm.
And then Miguel's first show, or Miguel only had one show during the season, but they put Miguel in their first playoff show, and then Miguel's been riding all the playoffs so far. So, I mean, Silverado being planned and making smart choices, that's just kind of what they've done all playoffs so far, is make good, smart choices. And I think that just kind of carried over into today. Roman, I'll give you a little bit of a gold star on this one. I loved every suggestion that came out of this show. And I know I pick on you, but you found some good stuff. So they opened with some first line, last line, some Bozo the Clown, some sort of Justice League bubble. David Hasselhoff and Busta Rhymes at a Dave and Buster's.
Oh man, it's a clever idea, isn't it? It's like watching the DVD of the bucket list as a bucket list item for you. You know, it's just good meta improv.
Yep. I love the team choice games. These are my favorite team choice games, pairing, I think, because Basic started with some Jeopardy and just some ridiculous. Taz, we still have no idea what your character was. You were this just weird Splinell, whatever your name was. Funny. Death, Joseph, your death character. Armless Stan, Aaliyah watching you try and hit a buzzer without an arm.
Yeah, jeez.
CrossFit in inner monologue, just so simple and so good for Silverado. That was such a good example of the way you guys have just played all year, and just how you can stand there and tell a joke. Like you could all easily just do audio comedy and don't need all the rest of that stuff.
It's true. Go do some dubs or something.
Right. That very first inner monologue when I called Jillian out, and she goes out and she makes her joke, and then I don't know if it was Jillian knowing that she could step back out of the monologue and go back to the scene, or if she thought I had to cue her out.
Right.
But there's definitely this continuous pattern that she kept forcing herself to go through, to where I was getting ready just to call her back and say, Jillian, go back to the scene. But she just kept trying to pound out some funny and kept trying to get it and work it. And it's just who they are, man. Parker, I mean, you're such a king at that stuff. You and Nathan were definitely the kings of that this year. Jason, even though Jason's only his second show is right now, that's what all Jason did, man. Jason can just stand there and tell funny jokes.
Yep.
So yeah, I enjoyed what this was. Kind of a cool moment that happened. Oh, it was in the second show. That's Silverado's second show, which means I spoiled it. Silverado did win this one, and Silverado advanced.
Yes, Silverado.
Go ahead.
Having that wonderful surprise run that we all look forward to when you have a team who may feel like they have a ceiling, but find so much more in the playoffs, and really getting creative for how they got there. Kudos to Silverado, pushing through a Basic team that stood, delivered, and did so smoothly. And yes, that was one more time our gentleman friend from Basic who got nominated for Joseph, thank you. I don't know why I was so excited to call him Jesse each time his face popped in my head. Joseph, you've got great comedy chops. I could see how so many of your past teammates have fed you and helped you to feel safe in your creativity. I'm so glad you got onto that most improved nomination list because you look great this past weekend. Real smooth and stable. Just wanted to say that, man. Basic deserves that love. And Silverado Advance.
I'll give you a little bit more. So I was able to figure this out, but those of you that want to come or are planning to come to Championship Day in the particular All-Star Show, the All-Star Show and the Coaches Show are not normal shows. So they're not going to be the typical layout the way you see shows all year long. They can't with how many people are actually in the shows.
Right.
So mathematically, this year being a little bit of a different year, I had an opportunity to put someone else in the All-Star Show. So Aaliyah from Basics team is going to play in the All-Star Show.
Oh, that just makes me the happiest. Good job, Kopy.
Yeah.
Yay.
So,
good.
Aaliyah had a very interesting year, how that worked out for her. Aaliyah's actually a Green Valley student. Of course, we didn't have Green Valley as a team. So had to figure it out, how to give Aaliyah this opportunity to perform, and she took it and she made the most of it. So yeah, she even got an all-star vote with that stalwart Evan on her team. She found a way to get one. So yeah, you deserve a shot to get up there in your 4th year and play with some all-stars.
And there goes your veil, right? Like the veil's pulled off, and that's just more credence and more weight to what you did this year, Aaliyah, in the same way that we would say a Harley was so stable and strong and inspiring. I'll tell you what, it's uncomfortable for some kids to play with strangers. Right. But kudos to you kids who don't have that problem, who remember that improv is life. We're going to improvise with people we don't know every single day. It's part of daily life. So kudos for you for not letting that affect you. I think week in and week out, Aaliyah was strong and stable, and I'm super proud and impressed of that. So very much an honorary most improved from us here in Jesters leadership. Go get it, Aaliyah, and enjoy your spotlight. Really well deserved. One more show for you. Yes.
That's right.
Now, Cimarron and Clark took to the stage next as we switched over to the west side of the bracket. Clark, hungry and excited and inspired to be here. Here we are. Show us what we've got. We're charging forward. And then Cimarron, of course, stable as far as the rankings are concerned. Cimarron's been near the top of rankings since we knew what rankings were in Jesters. And here's Althea at the center point one more time for this team, ready to face Marlene and Blanca and Jenna and Hillel, the consistent playoff team for Clark this run. And from the audience standpoint, I watched Cimarron push and push and push to find the moments that they knew they wanted for this to really stand out as a show befitting of the moment. Clark had lots of really fun, different approaches to what they were doing. In other words, all 4 members took to what they were improvising a little bit differently than I can recall personally. Not that I've seen a ton of Clark improv this year, but one thing I do know is that Marlene had a show here on this one. Marlene was everywhere and electric as she did so, and non sequiturs constantly, secondary thinking constantly, big smiles, like the kinds of joke delivery that make you realize, like, did you just say that? You're smiling like you don't realize you just said that. And it just made for constant comedy there. I mean, Marlene playing some head games with how strong you were this past weekend in that show. That's what stood out to me. Kopy, take it from me.
Yeah, 100%. And I was intrigued from the start again. So starting with Cimarron, Althea, of course, is going to play. Cassidy, who I think had probably her best show last week against West Tech. And then Mersey, who we only have gotten one show out of this year.
Right, yeah.
I got to see Mersey actually also in a play. So I've seen Mersey perform twice this year, and Mersey's just a very natural performer. That she's just very elegant, knows how to perform, and it's just there's comfort. So I know Althea and Mersey are really close friends, so I'm happy that they got to do that. And then Andrea, I've kind of been asking about Andrea for weeks too. Where's Andrea been? So Andreas missed a handful of shows, did a lot right in the beginning, and then we kind of missed a big gap there. So I was like, ooh, look what Cimarron's going to do today. And then Clark, yeah, you nailed who the four were, because it's kind of been those four minus the first show. Kieran got to play in that first show.
Mm-hmm.
So immediately, Hillel turned into a judge's favorite. At one point, I got to go over the judges' table, and they looked at me and they said, "That is the funniest kid ever." And he just is so funny. The last practice we were at, I ended up doing an impression of Hillel, and simultaneously while I was doing it, Coach Jarrell was also doing it, and I looked over and I was like, "Your impression looks exactly like mine." It's just,
yep.
He's such a funny kid.
I was thinking about that, man. You know, the Ephraim Zamoras, right? The, I'll say Max Morrow for me on my crew,
Yeah.
You've got to have a quirky kid who just does stuff, because, man, are they not the ones that remind us that we're just here to have fun?
Yes.
And I love that about Hillel too. And I couldn't help but wonder while we were watching in live time, I remember thinking to myself, what are the judges thinking of Hillel? So it's a wonderful feeling to hear you say how much he was becoming a favorite to some old stalwarts of Jesters history. Good stuff. Congrats, Hillel.
They called him out immediately to me. They're just like, man, that kid.
That's great.
Then going into the actual games, I think we had a pretty strong scenes from a hat.
Mm-hmm.
I loved the suggestions for Monkey Mirror they had, visitation hours, the visitation hours in prison, New York apartment.
Right.
The tag out did not slow down. Like, they flew through that.
Boom, boom.
Naive replay. I know naive replay is something that Clark's been wanting to get into a show.
Yes.
And rotate it around. I love the order that they had.
Mm-hmm.
Marlene coming in second. You're absolutely right. Marlene had quite a show here.
Gosh, yeah.
And I knew it from the start. I knew it from the scenes from a hat. Just the way that she was delivered. I knew it from naive replay with her coming in second. Tag out. So we got into Monkey Mirror, and I'm looking at this and I'm going, okay, we got Hillel, who I already know is a judge's favorite. I've got the MVP nominee right there in Jenna, and I've got our most improved nominee, Blanca. But then I've got Marlene, who's killing it right now. So I'm going to make Marlene go against Althea. And I think Marlene's face, even in that moment, I was like, hey, it was like, you put me up there with Althea. I was like, yeah.
I got bumped up.
Like, absolutely, I'm putting you up there with Althea.
Yeah.
I got to see them after the show, in between, in passing real quick. And then just given those comments, I looked right at her and I said, yeah, Marlene, it had to be you. Like, you had to be the one to play Althea.
Amen. Yeah.
So, there's plenty of stuff to talk about in this particular show. I loved high school play. You don't get to see high school play much.
Oh.
And I think I hope this is the way Althea thinks sometimes, but I wonder what Althea can't do. So I feel like her taking on this game was just another notch to add to her belt of just the things that she can go in there and rock at all times.
Yep.
So I remember Clark asked me for some advice this week. What do we do against Cimarron and Althea? And because that's how you talk about it. You say Cimarron and Althea,
right,
and you put Althea in that billing. And I said, well, I mean, you got to slay the dragon, and you know who the dragon is. So, in this particular case, Clark did advance.
Oh man, yeah.
And what a show!
It was wild. It was a heck of a matchup. It was really exciting to see Clark get their cohesiveness to a point where they can take out a powerhouse like Cimarron is year in and year out. Of course, it's as bittersweet as it gets. As a matter of fact, as I rifle through my Rolodex of Jesters memories and I decide how they were impacted by this weekend, outside of Del Sol circumstances, my biggest card I took out and went, and sighed a lot at was Althea, because as we say goodbye to Althea as a performer outside of the All-Star show, thank you very much. We all know how that had to feel for a kid who cares as much as Althea does.
Right.
So we just want to say thank you for everything you've done to uplift your schools. You had Rancho and then you have Cimarron. We want to say thank you for how you've uplifted our league by being a role model and someone I think a lot of people look up to improvisationally, but also on a human level. You've just been the student of the game this whole time. And I remember catching you just after the show. We had just a quick exchange. I hope you're knowing how great you are. That's all we want you to know. And go out there and find new levels of greatness and different avenues of improv. You will, as long as you keep giving it as much passion and effort as you gave Jesters. You're going to have so much value to bring to the Las Vegas art community theater scene if you choose. You're the improv scene here in the community if you choose. Jesters if you choose to come back and work with us. Or heck, if you go off and be an astronaut, president of the United States, or the one who solves world hunger, I think you can do it, Althea. So good for you. And we'll miss you, Simi. That was fun. And now the other half of the West Coast bracket. And boy, I mean, the lump in the throat is real. I was almost ashamed of myself for being in the back making critiques with students for half of this show. When I remembered, oh my God, Northwest and Riftside is right now. Let's get our butts to the auditorium ASAP Rocky. These two teams, Northwest CTA and Riftside, you could have had the championship at that stage. We would have believed you that they had made it there. These are two ridiculously strong teams. You can argue both have MVP caliber talent on them from beginning to end. Main stager, cast members everywhere. Some of the best support for some of these MVP quality players too. No one is dropping the ball between these two teams. This was probably game of the day. And I missed the first half of it, caught the second half of it, and I will absolutely pay credence to the power between these camps. Isaiah was here, Erica was here, Margot was here, Alicia was here, Josh was here. I mean, so much name power. Talk to me, Kopy. The improv was here for this one.
I gotta tell you this. Backstage, before they're walking out, Erica walks up to me and says, Kopy, why is Warren scared of me?
Who's this?
Erica.
Oh.
She says, why is Warren scared of me? And I just said, who isn't scared of you? Like, everybody's scared of me.
I'm afraid of strong women, you guys. Like, I'm just open about it. Y'all are just scary. I was afraid of Bella for 3.5 years, for crying out loud.
I'll give you a funny. I'm going to back up the powerful Erica comment in a second when we talk about her team choice. But there was so much to talk about. There's so much storyline behind this particular show that I got to talk about it a little bit out on stage, but I didn't get to say maybe one of the coolest things and something that just I don't think has ever happened for just a playoff show that isn't the championship. But Northwest and Riftside got together and had a joint practice before this show.
Good.
Which is pretty stinking cool.
It's the epitome of sportsmanship, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. And championship, we tend to see that where we try and get these teams together and allow that to be a thing. But just the coordination of that is sometimes difficult. So in a random week where it is a different playoff show, an Elite Eight show for that matter, and they had a chance to do that. So that was pretty cool. So starting this show was, remember for your Northwest, you got your 4 seniors, 3 of them 4-year players, and Kylie, I wish we could have had for that 4th year.
No kidding.
And then, you've got your 3 seniors over at Riftside, and then you got your sophomore, your MVP nod with Margot. And they open with head-to-head Jeopardy. I know head-to-head Jeopardy has kind of, over the years, coaches have went, it's just too busy. There's too much going on. I know that Miley did a head-to-head Jeopardy earlier this year where it was 8 different. It wasn't pairs. It was 8 different whatever. So
that would be too much. I agree.
I've seen different perceptions of how to do head-to-head Jeopardy, and we couldn't even get to the buzzers. Like, just so funny. Just everything that these 8 created was just so stinking funny. It started with Alicia and Kylie. These 2 ultimate yes men type performers that were paired up with this wizardy whatever, and it never stopped. So we talk about Alicia and her power to just add these physical elements to everything she does. Alicia never stopped, and so I don't even know who initiated, because it was Kylie who got me on the invisibility cloak last week. So I don't know who did it, but those two, like, we could have let it just go and they would have been doing it for an hour.
Oh yeah.
So funny just from the get. A real simple, I don't remember what Sophia said, doppelganger, whatever her character choice was, to tease little Susie. Josh's puppet for Erica, oh my God, just
right.
So Josh, so in your face, so powerful. And then I think every word of the description between Isaiah and Margot's pairing got the audience to laugh, because Isaiah went mermaid man, and I forget, there were more words to it. I think I know the character. That's a SpongeBob thing, right? Mermaid Man?
Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy.
Yeah. So there was a bunch of words that seemed like it all fit with the Mermaid Man. And then for whatever reason, Margot is the snail on Mermaid Man's shoulder. And every word of their setup just got a pop. It was just so funny to watch those two. And then to watch them interchange as the game was going on. Like, they inverted snails. Like, it just... What a fun way to start this particular show.
Ridiculous creativity right there. You know, you put Margot and Isaiah in a snow globe and shake it up, and the confetti is their creativity. It's going everywhere, folks. It's a blizzard. So I bet that was a lot of fun. Yeah,
that whole game, awesome. You got some exit stage left on a Rift side, which is the first time we've seen that this year.
Fun.
That's a Rift side game. I don't know if any other teams played that before. So. Nope. That's one of their standards. Strong, just they play characters. It doesn't matter who plays the character, and that's the point of the game, is they just keep rotating in and out of that character, and you find you're funny. We got an emotional party out of Northwest with, and this is where I'm going to bring the Erica thing back around.
Okay.
They lost keys, and Isaiah's hosting, and his emotions abandoned. And he got so much pop out of his host before the first entrance, and that's hard to do.
No.
And I don't think most students are very cognitive of the idea that you can get reaction before anyone ever enters your party. And Isaiah did that so well. Erica was a liar. That was her emotion. Erica comes in 2, and T came in 3 as annoying, but Kylie came in sassy at 4, and Kylie was the mom of the scene.
Okay.
So when it went back down the ladder to Erica left the scene in a very aggressive, very normal for Erica fashion.
The reason why I'm afraid.
Very normal Erica fashion. And she says, "I'm leaving right now. I'm leaving you," and then slams the door and says, "For your mother." And it got a really good pop. And I looked at Song, who of course is doing music, and I said, Erica meant that. Like, that was, she really is going to do that. Like, that's what she's doing. And Song's like, yeah, I know. Like, I get it. That's Erica. That's who she is. Strength. 6 things, which is Northwest's baby. It's hard to say a team is better at 6 things than Northwest, but heck, if Riverside didn't make it seem like they were also just as good, or if not better.
Wow.
Alicia's storytelling, guessing, so funny.
Cool choice for guesser.
Yeah, it was a great choice. I enjoyed that game. That game flew. Like, that game is, the way they played it is exactly why we spend the entire year playing it. In week 1 and 2, when we're struggling in 6 things, the reason we're doing it is to get to do it the way we saw Riverside and Northwest do it.
Wow.
So that's the goal. But, like, that's what we're shooting for.
Yeah.
So, and then, so I'm going through this show, and I'm thinking to myself, how are the judges going to be able to tell anything apart?
Right.
So the only way to have that is to extend and give more opportunities and give more games. So I thought, you know what, I can probably just create something right here on the spot and see what they do with it and see if it helps the judges in any way. So I did. I created a game on the spot, which I will never do to you during the season, guys. Don't worry. And I've probably only done a couple of times ever. So I created a version of First Line, Last Line where they had to sing, and they had to sing all of their scenes. And most of you don't know this, but Corey, our stage manager and coach of several teams, she can improvise the piano, so she can create.
Tickles them ivories so pretty.
Yeah, and so I said, Corey, grab that piano. Let's do this. And it was so good, man. I loved it. Loved every bit of it. Isaiah and Josh started, and Corey's starting to lay down a melody, and Josh is rhythmly challenged.
Yeah, that's one way to put it.
But
it's the one thing he can't do. Keep time.
But there's nothing Josh won't do. So Josh powered through that.
Awesome.
And Isaiah, I mean, what's going to stop Isaiah? So the two of them were definitely really off rhythm out of the gate. But then the second it hit Margot and Kylie on the second pairing, just like elation from the crowd. Oh my God, like, oh, this is so good. And then it just kept going. So when it came back to Josh and Isaiah, they were completely on it this time. So there was no miscalculation. Like, they nailed it. They got it.
I'm so mad I missed that game. I was in the back talking with kids. Boo.
Yeah.
It sounds like it would have been so much fun.
Yeah, this show is awesome. Yeah. We took all the time we needed to take to make sure the scores were correct.
I believe it.
Yeah, and then in the end, of course, Riverside advanced. One of the cool stories I was able to tell that particular day was, I think this is only the second time in our league history that Northwest and Riverside / Durango got to play each other.
Oh, wow.
That particular time when they did it, of course, it was an entirely different set of students, minus Erica. Erica was actually in that show, baby Erica.
Oh man, that's wild. Yeah.
That was our highest scored show in our Jesters history.
Oh, so we're talking 4 years ago then.
First time around, yeah. So it hasn't been beaten since. So to have all this hype and to have such a good show right now, that's kind of cool. That's kind of a neat thing that got to carry into this scenario. But Riverside,
and congrats to them. It could have gone either way on paper. In execution, I'm sure it could have gone either way. I'm again really flabbergasted that I allowed myself to miss so much of this show after how much I legitimately wanted to catch it. So bless both schools for the effort and both for an amazing year. Northwest bowing out now. I mean, gosh, guys, I hope you're not disappointed. I can only imagine that to some extent you wish you could have gone a couple steps further, but y'all have been and continue to be almost the benchmark of the whole league for such a long time. And it's been so cool watching you guys blossom with your current coaching staff too. Old-time Clark County School District teacher Kraft is wonderful. She's been part of our history at Clark and now over at Northwest, being just a huge part of their creativity. And of course, Faith, who came over from Arborview after graduation to be coach there. So I can't wait to see if they continue to blossom with new students and new ideas next year.
Oh, and
of course, a couple younger pieces who are ready to go.
Yeah, and I agree. I when I think of those 4 shows, I think a lot of the cultures of those particular groups and teams and schools. And I mean, Northwest has just nonstop always delivered and has always kept recreating stars, basically. And yes, we had 4 seniors in this one, but there's stars underneath that. I know that I talked a lot with Coach Faith about, who is going to get into what show and when. And they've got plenty of stuff to be excited and happy about. I know backstage, Kylie Meyer says to me, she says, "So can I just fail my senior year and come back and do it as a 50?" And if that isn't one of, God, I wish we had more Kylie this year. I'm glad she came back to the playoffs, but Kylie and T, both of you, even T asked me, it's like, "Hey, did I improve at this stuff?" I was like, "Oh, I love it. You are a 4th year senior asking those questions. Love it, love it, love it, love it." So yeah, I mean, win, lose, or draw, you can't be upset with how that one went down.
Great kids, great cultures. They'll be back. And hey, there's always room here at Jesters for those who want to contribute. And Kopy finds things for you to do improvisationally at times. For the first couple of years of my run as coach, the few times I got to hop on stage and play a game with the kids was so much fun, and still is. So you'll still have plenty of chances to play if you feel like coming in and doing some more Jester stuff with us after graduation. What can we say?
Yeah, Kylie's already signed up. So
yeah, that was my sales pitch. I was for you, Kylie. I'm glad you're coming. Can't wait to work with you. And now we get into our final four matchups where Del Sol, Silverado, Clark, and Riffside were all hoping to take that one next step into the championship round. For two teams they did, for two teams they did not. Let's talk about it for a second. First with Del Sol and Silverado. So what happens when Warren's coaching? He gets really focused on the performance as a whole and doesn't memorize and remember as many moments just because he wants to try to catch every detail and find the glaring ones to critique his kids with. So that's during the normal season. At playoffs, coaching Warren is just sitting in his seat sweating. I don't know if it doesn't matter if he's smiling or clapping or throwing out suggestions. He's just sitting there sweating. So I'm pretty sure I blacked out during most of this. But what I do remember is that my kids and I had to really compromise with each other before we took our ideas to Coach Isaac with Silverado, and we all found the best way for us to move forward. So everybody felt ready. And then when those decisions were in place, I just kept telling the kids, like, look, you're playing with house money. From my viewpoint, we've succeeded in getting to where we got last year. Of course, we want to get to the championship, but for crying out loud, just go out there and have fun, because that's when we have the most fun watching you. That's what I wanted to see in this round, and I think they accomplished that from my viewpoint. Silverado brought the same four students to the forefront here for their matchup with us, bringing Parker, who I'll name first so I don't weirdly forget, Miguel, Jillian, and Jason. And it was just more for me to appreciate from these folks who I haven't gotten to see a whole lot of and get to know a little bit better. Truly some great skills amongst that Silverado school. It was a worthy opportunity for us to rise to the occasion, Dragons. Kopy, help tell everybody what happened, since I'm still sweating thinking about it.
The order of the games that I'm going to talk about might be a little out of order than how they actually happened.
Good, at least I'll remember them.
Yeah. But I mean, there's plenty to talk about. So these final four matchups are longer.
Yep.
Kind of what I just said about the Riverside Northwest show is that I want to give the judges as much opportunity as we can to make sure the teams that go on to the championship go on to the championship. So these shows are longer. So there's more games in these particular shows. Mm-hmm. So we got a lot in this one. We got a radio with a ton of suggestions that I was excited about. All from the top. I mean, brain surgery, Pete Davidson, Taylor Swift.
Speedy Taylor.
Yeah. Song leans over to me and says, I bet Speedy listens to Taylor Swift.
But then he didn't bust out a single like shake it off joke, so I'm like, maybe not. So I'm not sure.
It's okay. Even Scared of Canada, like just some good suggestions out of the gate.
Yeah, Max played that really fun. They did a good job. My team did a good job of playing their scenes especially different. I remember thinking that, like, good, everybody's got a different approach to this one, which I think is important with radio. Everybody's got to look at it a little different. Go. Sorry.
Yep. No, totally agree. And then I would say even maybe a little more so on replay, I enjoyed everyone's interpretation. I told Roman in the suggestion getting to this one kind of what to look for that I wanted to see. So he got some real basic ones like horror and Western and whatnot. And I said, just let them own some really common genres and just let them do their thing, man. Don't throw all this crap at him. And he did. And it paid off so well. Really, even infomercial, the vacuum infomercial at the end, how Silver, right? Just so simple and so good. So I had a lot of fun with that replay. We closed the show with some to-do rap. This was, you know what? Let's not talk about that yet. Because that's a cooler story. Sideline debate. Sideline debate ended very similarly for both teams, right? Where both teams pulled out that word almost right at the last hour.
Right on the ripcord. Yep.
Yeah, right on the ripcord, which is almost exactly the way that we would want it as coaches or want it as a league, is to be able to just peel off that Band-Aid right there. Yep. And it happened for both teams. So impeccable and potassium.
Right.
Jillian, if you ask Jillian again what that word was, she may not know it because I think it just kind of spilled out of her mouth. On potassium, yeah.
Oh yeah, that was fun. They were really pushing for potassium for the majority of the round. So finally getting it was exactly what you want to see for sure. I want to give a quick moment to Ghost here, because if I would have picked any of my students to bravely step forward to be the guesser at a time when sideline debate wasn't necessarily on our schedule per se, I would have never thought up until this year, watching what Ghost has done this year, I never thought it would be Ghost. So for Ghost to be that kid to go, you know what, just give me the guessing opportunity. Let's just get this done. Perfect synopsis of how far they've come as a person and an improviser in general. Like, just that moment right there was like, cool. Like, this is just bonus points for me as a coach, because that was maybe, if we look back on slow-mo for our friend Mia, this was a moment for Ghost where it was the same feeling for me. So that was great thought. Keep going.
Yeah, no, I agree. I could back all your Ghost comments, because I've been seeing that for a few weeks now for sure. Where Ghost is delivering it. I think my favorite from the Del Sol camp, at least, was slow-mo in this particular show.
You're
Nose
kidding.
hair trimming. I enjoyed it. I mean, simple. It just simple, and it's a game that gets really overlooked for some reason. But there's so much comedy just in the game, in slow-mo. So it's just so cool to see it at this level. And then, of course, the other side, you had your family dinner from Silverado. Autumn, a former jester, a graduated jester, kind of, got to give us that story, and fun. Very just like, that's what my family does. Mom's not exactly that way.
Miguel being the tall dad and introducing his character by silently hitting his head on whatever room he's entering to get to the dining table got the judges to pop and clap, got much of the audience to pop and clap. It's one of those understated, cleverly delivered jokes that has such great subtlety that everybody will eventually catch on, and when they do, they'll appreciate it. It was fun to see.
Well, let's flip into to do rap then, because this is a good transition. So
by subtlety.
I was interested to see to do rap on this list because Silverado is not that group. The Silverado is the stand there and tell jokes. But also, I would argue, maybe even Speedy. Speedy's got lead in his feet. So, so I'm like, I'm interested to see how this goes. Yeah. But at the start of the game, I ended up in the lobby. I was writing on the, what do you call it? The
board
bracket
that says who won.
I was writing the bracket, and I was about to walk back in right at the start of to do rap because Roman was doing the intro. And it was Miguel's family, or I'm not sure who it was, but there were several people there standing in the doorway filming Miguel with the phone. And I said, "Hey guys, you can go in." And they're like, "We don't want to make Miguel nervous." And I said, "This is our first time coming to this." Like, they didn't even know how to call it. Like, they didn't know how to call it a show. They're like, "This is our first time coming to this."
What?
And I said, "I promise you, in the middle of this, like, Miguel's not gonna, like, afterwards, yeah, he'll see you. But right now, like, in the thick of it,
he's
like, come on."
This right now. Yeah.
So there's like, "No, we can't do it." So at one point, I just said, "Okay, follow me." and I started walking through the audience. I pointed to where to sit. I said, "Right here." And then they did. They came in and they sat, and I got to see it. And then who won to do rap?
Miguel!
Yeah, right?
Oh, yeah, it was a great feeling. It was really cool.
And I would say Miguel might also have lead in his feet. So
Yeah,
it it was
maybe.
it was for me, it was cool. This is a cool victory to watch these two teams go and say, hey, let's go play this game. Maybe we do have lead in our feet, but let's rock it. Let's just go and do some Final Four to do rep and close this show out with a bang.
Yeah.
So and that's kind of the way it went. So a lot of games in this particular one. We didn't even talk about all of them because there's so many of them.
No.
But of course, we now know Del Sol advanced. Del Sol is going to the championship.
Do I get to say words about that feeling?
You can, but we're going to do a lot of championship preview stuff for anyone who is actually watching and continuously watching these videos.
I just want to say thank you, Silverado, for being as gracious as you were. You were super fun to play with. We loved trying to hype the energy of the show and help everybody feel that they're where they belonged on this last stage. Never in a million years do I ever assume I'm going to win. Hi, this is my first time making it to a final as a coach, and I gotta just say, this is never something that I assume would happen, and I'm grateful to my team, to the league, and I guess I'll talk more later, but for me, just having an opportunity to say thank you is important to me. I've always dreamed of building a culture at my school that can do this to this level. So obviously this is in some ways a milestone, but in other ways just the beginning all over again. So thank you very much. This feels great. We'll move forward because it's not about me. You so right.
Well, I mean, it's what you said, the culture. It's where these cultures are. You know, you flip to the Silverado side. Even before Isaac took over as a coach, like there was a Silverado culture there. Mm-hmm. And Isaac's been there now for several years, but just look what he keeps creating. And that's what you've done. I mean, Del Sol is the juggernaut it is because of what you've created as a culture. So, and now we're going to flip over into Riffside and Clark and talk about culture, right?
Thanks, buddy.
So there's a lot.
Oh, yeah. Team love. And, you know, there's something about Riffside. There's something about Riffside that, how can you put their culture into words? It's almost like if Del Sol is family, is maybe my word, if Clark's is love, right? And Silverado's is comedy. Let's be real. Those guys are all about, and that team is all about haha. Riffside has got to be the improv culture. Like it's becoming very, very much like Northwest. Yeah, they both just scream like, boom, these are the improv schools. And the electricity that Riffside has, just the eclecticness of it. And Clark was going to capture some of that eclecticness to bring to the table for this matchup. And this is the one where I had to leave. I couldn't take the whole day off at work to hang with you kids, but I took some of it, that's for sure. I didn't get to see any of this incredible matchup that pitted one of the true underdogs of the West Coast against the defending champs. And, you know, I want to hear all about it. Go ahead, Cope.
Well, so longer show, like we just said, the Final Four is going to be longer show. So a lot more here to cover. We got some first line, last line out from two teams that can just deliver out of the gate. Great pairings, great simplicity. You know, if Riffside was kind of the benchmark for how to stand to just perform your hearts out, then I think Clark has been the benchmark for just how to do everything right. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what you had. You two very different groups here that were trying to put a show together. And the same thing that was happening in the last shows was happening in this one, where my brain's just going, man, it would be so cool to do this and this. It's just timing. With this particular day, you only have so much time to do whatever we can do. So I just had to kind of sit back and let this one play out and see what happens. The team choice rounds on both sides was just really what caught me. So we got a backwards scene out of Clark, which I think that's the first time we've seen that this year.
Right. Yeah.
So backwards scene, you start at the end of the story, and then you just keep going backwards in the scene to find out what happened to get to that end. And they had the organic twist to by the end of their scene to organically get back to why the front of the scene started.
Okay.
And then I even got to go past that point. So
wow.
a really good Clark backwards scene.
Awesome.
And then of course you had to get Inception out on Riffside.
Oh man.
Yep. And
Oh God.
what I didn't realize until it was happening was that the team that introduced Inception to the league was Tuacahn, and who was sitting there at the judges table.
Good old Haley Reno.
Yep.
Who'd have thought?
Someone who knows that game very, very well got to watch now our juggernaut of Riffside, our defending champs, by the way, play their Inception. So we got Margot and Sophia doing the upfront work with Josh and Alicia as the dreams. I don't even need to talk about the game.
No,
like that's all you need to hear.
God, that's so good.
Right.
That's such a good just choice of roles for those 4 kids. Like genius, smart, all you need.
Yep. Absolutely. And you have, you had head-to-heads in here that I'll try and talk about. Like they had Dating App, which these two teams just killed it in Dating App.
Funny, characters for days.
Nonstop. But we get back over to the other side on the team choice again. We got Reviver out of Clark, which is a combination of Survivor and Replay.
Ooh.
So after someone gets voted off the island, you replay the next Survivor with the 3, but taking on a replay genre. And then you do it for all 3. It's a new replay genre, a new replay genre.
So by the end of it, the person who's all by themselves has their own crazy replay thing to strain through the whole thing.
Exactly.
Wow, that sounds fun. Did Jarrell make that up?
I've seen a couple of variations very close to this, almost the exact same scenario. So I'm not sure. It's very possible because I know that Coach Jarrell's mind has been doing this with a lot of games lately.
Yeah.
So it's very possible, but I've seen a couple of nuances very similar to it.
Fine.
And I think the actual, man, we set up Jenna to fail. Like the suggestion Jenna got, oh my God. So it started with the first elimination of Blanca. Blanca was voted off first, and then it went to 1920s New York. So to hear Hillel and them try and do their 1920s New York was a lot of fun. A telenovela on the next one. It was Marlene that went out next. So it was Hillel and Jenna on the telenovela, which just a fun, like.
I would imagine Hillel in a telenovela would be hilarious.
Right.
I'm saying it wouldn't be with Jenna, but there's something about Hillel's energy trying to be serious soap opera that's.
Well, the hot and cold between the two of them.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
It was a great hot and cold. Like it was exactly what you want in that particular scenario.
Good.
And then Jenna got as the close. So Hillel voted off. So Jenna closed out this game. The suggestion came from the judges table of Split, the movie Split, where if you know the movie, I don't know if you know the movie, but it's what's his name?
Somebody's
James
got 27
McAvoy.
personalities.
James, he's got 22 personalities or something. And so Jenna already had to play 4 different characters because it was the Survivor countdown plus all with split personalities.
Oh my goodness gracious. What an amazing decision. That student, and if they put as much effort into it as I imagine they did, they probably deserved a standing ovation.
When that suggestion was shouted out, I was like, oh my God, my brain's going to explode.
Right.
So, but then we got over to Riffside on Angels and Demons, and what a neat moment. So Riffside just, nailed their Angels and Demons the week before in the playoffs. So they decided to do it again in this particular show, not their Elite 8 matchup, but their Final 4 matchup, parent-teacher conference. And poor Sophia having to have Josh and Alicia on her shoulders, being an angel and a demon. Sophia is, for our first year senior, you are one of the best sports I've ever met. You are so much fun and such a sweetheart. I'm sure everyone's best friend at a party. Like to have to justify the two of them is just ridiculous.
hard as the day is long. Like great.
And mean old me, I'm watching this game going, what can we add to it? So I go over to the Clark's bench. I go to Marlene and Jenna and I said, hey, go be the angel and demon on Margot's shoulder. And they're like, well, wait, we don't know this. And I was like, you'll be fine. Just you be an angel, you be a demon, go. And they're like, okay. They jump up on Margot's shoulder. Now we've got two heads with angels and demons, and Margot doing the natural switch, and just a great way to close that game out. So good. And we're only talking team choices, man.
Oh, yeah.
We got a what else you got, which was neat. My pairing choices I was happy about. I started with Margot and Marlene only because they used to be teammates. Exactly. Margot's first year in the league was with Clark, with a much younger Marlene, of course. And I remember that year going, man, Marlene's got so much to offer. And at the time, an 8th grade Margot. And I remember just being super excited for what they could offer. And now I'm like, man, now they're in a Final Four against each other. How cool is this?
Exactly.
So that's why I started with it. It was like, regardless of what other matchups we could create, that's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see
what you want. Cool. It's your league, man. Do what you want.
Then I went Josh and Hillel, because of just how funny they are. I was like, that's what I want to see. We got Blanca and Sophia, and then we closed it out with Alicia and Jenna.
So fun.
And Alicia and Jenna.
Yeah, another great opportunity for Alicia to get that rub going up against an MVP, similar to the way you had that set up for Cimarron and Clark earlier in the day. So very cool.
Both of them first team main stagers. So it's anytime you can create those matchups, that's what you want. Yep. So we're at the end of our show, and the scores were split. I think this was our only split of the day. Scores were split, but Riverside got it, and Riverside's going to the championship.
And man, it's so exciting for Del Sol to get the opportunity to play the defending champs. It's kind of sort of appropriate, right? We want to play the champs. What's wrong with that? But I'll tell you what, on a personal level, the beard is crying because Nick Jarrell and I coached at Clark for years before Nick took over when I left, and he literally claims to have literally tried to follow in my footsteps and treat the kids the way I treated them, with a little extra twist of Jarrell, and he's team love for a reason. In my younger years especially, I'm especially all about love and making sure kids feel safe and comfortable and get their creativity out there. And it would have been so much fun for us to be coaching against each other in the final show, but I'm just as excited to play with or coach with a beardless Karina. Let's go, Karina.
On the Clark side of it, so until this year, this was the first time Clark has ever won an in-person playoff show.
Right.
So for them to make it to the Final Four and then split the defending champs, it's just culture, man. It's like I'm saying, this culture thing's real. If you can build it, I remember specifically talking to Coach Jarrell about the idea of when you can compete at a higher level, to when you can do good work and strive and actually advance in these playoffs. I promise you're going to get more out of this thing than just kind of walking through the motions. Mm-hmm. And if they didn't crush every opportunity they had, Clark can feel 0 ounce of disappointment in this. They got as much out of this league as possible, and they kind of took it over by storm this year. So on the other side with Riverside, there's only one other school in our league history that made it to back-to-back championships. So Riverside is now number 2, and here we go.
Hey, give some history on Del Sol. Did I hear this correct rumor? Just so we can have a moment. Yep. Is this the first time that the championship is being hosted by a school while they also go for the title?
It is. And to even add even more fun to that, your opponent is the defending champs.
Yeah, it's as good as it gets, man. Right. As far as the billing is concerned, we've made a great main event matchup. I'm so excited to play with Riverside. My kids are ready. I'm definitely like in popcorn mode where I'm like, hey, I'll give tips, but I just want to watch. Can we just have like win, lose, or draw? I'm just a happy camper and a grateful coach. This league has had such an amazing year. We've rebounded in a way that we have to be proud of, and we will be proud of. More culture being built from us here in the leadership land of Jesters. We've set down some roots to keep creating year after year of great stuff with you kids. For those eliminated teams who we now wave goodbye, just know that we'll be waiting in the wings for you with open arms, ready to welcome back your creativity as we get into the next school year. We hope you'll make a point to get your happy hindquarters to Del Sol High School on April 23rd when all of our championship day festivities open at the bright old hour of 8 a.m. Right?
And see your coaches perform.
Coach Warren's going to have to show his dragons that he knows how to perform with 8 a.m. energy too, at long last. And I'm ready to rise to the occasion. So are our all-stars who take to the stage after that. We give off some exciting awards. Every year, these moments are truly magical and special. We've had a heck of a storytelling year. Who knows who will take home the awards this year for Most Improved Performer, Rookie of the Year, and Jack Elton Awards out there. Who knows? The intangibles are still flowing. And after that, you're going to get to see the championship at long last. I mean, what's not to look forward to? I can't wait. I know you guys can't wait. The only people we need to make sure can't wait are our audience. So come on down, check it out so we can clap-o-meter our way to a 2022 champion. Kopy, closing thoughts, or have I summarized it well enough?
Yeah, we're gonna have a couple more videos come out within the next 2 weeks because it's spring break. We got a little time before championship.
Congrats.
But we're gonna have a couple more videos kind of talking and highlighting some of this championship day stuff, especially the championship show, because we've already had several videos talking about the actual awards and whatnot. So we're gonna get some more stuff out here. We're gonna interview the performers and the students and the coaches and put some more content out there for you. So this at least stays fresh in your mind. But yeah, championship day is super special. If you heard Warren just say a second ago, the Jack Elton Award, that didn't get a video because there's no nominees. It's a completely different animal. Mm-hmm. Plenty of reasons to come championship day. And I even talked about one of them, how Aaliyah got an extra spot in that all-star show.
Such a good feeling.
There's so many of those things that happen on championship day. Please come, April 23rd.
Yep, it'll be special. And we can't wait to fill the room with the Del Sol culture, because whatever, we're there, we made it. I'm super stoked. So we'll see you guys soon, and have a great rest of your night until next time on Just a Recap.